the policies to do with environmental and biodiversity net gain ethos upon which planning applications will be approved are getting higher and higher. And across the whole of Oxfordshire, the corporate plan, which is essentially the strategic vision of both the South and Vale districts, have set probably the highest targets that we're allowed to set, and we're not paying much attention to the government's retraction. It's made everyone more determined, and I think that's one of the areas where the partnership of the Liberal Democrats and the Greens at a local level, we are so on the same page. You know, there is just almost entirely support for that overarching policy of environment, sustainability, well-being for the humans, well-being for the environment, active travel, you know, sustainable housing, warm housing, future fit, future-proof development and housing. It's just a work in progress of how we put that policy into, you know, our own capacity to enforce.
I think the government are playing for votes on this. I think it's a big mistake to cut back on their pledges for going to net zero by 2030. I think it would be a big mistake to go back on LTNs and go back on 20 miles per hour. This is not the right move, it's electioneering. We are different parties, so we don't agree on everything, but actually on a local level we align on an awful lot of things. A lot of the Green policies are also Liberal Democrat policies. So it's actually not hard to align on a lot of local issues together, whether that's sustainable transport or insulating houses or anything like that, really. I mean, we're fairly aligned on that. So I think where we differ is more on the national stage.
At local level, the policies are absolutely, there is just almost there's no issue with our agreed. The partnership is so heartwarming, I guess. There are, at national level, I know there are a few fundamental differences, particularly to do with sustainability and energy. I think the nature of politics that you know, for me, I've absolutely confirmed or affirmed that I struggle personally with how the political model has worked for hundreds of years, that it's essentially a polarization model, I'm right, you're wrong, model that creates two-party politics or swing politics, however you want to call it. And I personally know from my work that is not a way to create, to be creative, to create solutions and well-being in a community or a country.
Obviously, when we're fighting for our own seat, we won't be aligned with the Greens on that. That will be the Lib Dems and the Greens will sit in different camps.
And the answer is probably no. There isn't a person that put forward by both. I think when it gets to that level, everyone splits off and does their own thing. That's what I think is true. And it's not what interests me personally.
Councillor Kate Gregory, the county councillor, has been working quite hard on buses, and she's also been very involved in safe cycle routes, particularly a route proposed to go from Chinner through to the Phoenix Trail and then ultimately Tame. So there are various things that we're trying to do there. The county's trying to increase the level of bus services and what have you, but it's just going to take a little bit of time for us to work out where that funding is going to come from.
My wish is to come up with a roundtable discussion where we figure out how we can get the funding, how we can make safe travel and easy travel, whether it's through buses, through cycles, to connect our villages in this area, in Chinna, because they're all 3 miles apart, and the connectivity at a local level is beyond appalling. I mean, it is terrible, you know, and if you're on foot or on a cycle, it's actively dangerous.
Yes, the answer to that is yes, we do have a view on it. We think that there is a need for social housing because of the high cost of housing in the area. We're actually looking at the moment into buying some houses for the local authority. Obviously, there's some quite big costs involved in this. It's quite a complicated thing to do, but that we are certainly looking at that now.
South Oxfordshire, since they became the partnership, having owned no social housing at all, they now own 27 social housing units or provisions, which is part of their plan to keep increasing that. But because they've done that, they don't themselves have the budget to increase around here. So I asked about community land trust. Is there a way for the local community to become stakeholders in buying land that provides the kind of housing that is required in the area or that's missing in the area? And apparently the answer is yes. So that is a very exciting possibility for the future.
The messages I've been getting when I've been canvassing are that John Howell has been a fairly unpopular MP for the area. A lot of people feel that he's not he's not there to answer their questions if they have any concerns. So we've got a great candidate in Freddie Van Merlo. At the moment, the Conservative constituency of the last election had a 14,000 majority. So actually, if 14,000 people just decide to switch to Liberal Democrats, then we're looking at Freddie Van Merlo being the next MP for the area.
So, do I have a view? Yes, I have a view, unsurprisingly. To my mind, not just my heart, but my mind says that going forward, we really need to make the issues that are to do with our survival as individuals, as groups, as a planet, we need to take those issues out of the political football system. My support would be to whoever steps up, whatever group, whatever individual, of which there seem to be none at the moment, steps up to actually lead. Now, I don't know if anyone has been watching Channel 4's extraordinary contribution to unearthing the facts to do with climate, but the government have already commissioned a step-by-step guide to decarbonisation, to sorting out our net zero, our temperature rise. There are steps. However, no one's willing to lead. No one is willing to actually commit to do that, to do the right thing, versus do the short-term fear, greed thing. And I don't know that either party are, well, certainly there's no willingness at the moment. I don't know that there's even ableness. So my support would be to whoever genuinely steps up to do what is best for the collective, not for, oil companies, not for funding, but genuinely what is best, because we don't have the luxury anymore of waiting. We need leadership, and we need the science. We need the leaders to listen to the scientists, not to listen to the lobbyists. that system is what got us into this in the first place. We know what's happening at an unconscious level, and that is creating fear and uncertainty. And in the face of fear and uncertainty, we need people who are adults, not frightened children. We need people who are switched on and connected to the well-being of the whole, not the individuals. And that's what I would support.